insights from industry leaders and try to navigate through the uncertainty, with regards to recruitment, and this current phase that we're all in. It is a pleasure to have three esteemed panelists today from the recruitment world. But before I bring them in and talk about the topic, here are a few things to quickly just keep in mind as attendees. We're starting at 4 p.m. sharp, and we'll be trying to wind up by 4:55 to 5 p.m. We were very, very lucky to receive a lot of registrations and some wonderful questions as well. So because of that, we have a flow and structure in place already. That being said, we'll be doing live polls. We'll be doing a lot of live questions, and we based on the availability of time, we'll try to take any questions instead of our existing ones as well. The topic for today is one with some great relevance, and I think it's something that, as I was discussing with the panelists, I think we've discussed remote hiring, irreversible changes, some diversity hiring, technology adoption, and so much more. But now we want to deep dive into a topic which I think faced a lot of uncertainty as soon as the COVID crisis came about. And that is the fresher hiring and campus recruitment. What does the future hold now? And, are we actually better for the experience? And to discuss this today, we are joined by three wonderful panelists, starting with Christopher Anand. Christopher heads the campus hiring at Mindtree. Over the last 2 years, he's been instrumental in overhauling, their campus strategy, taking processes, to the next level, candidate engagement, university relations. He was actually also, heading talent acquisition, COE, and corporate hiring for over 4 years, where he managed employer branding and several other hiring processes. He's got a total of close to 2 decades of experience spanning across operations, marketing, sales, and consulting. So we're very excited to have him here as well. Up next, we have Pranay Prakash as well. Mr. Pranay Prakash is the head for people operations at Delhivery. As you can see from his as you can see from his virtual background, he's very high on employer branding as well. In a career spanning close to 15 years, he's worked across HR verticals, actively implementing strategies on culture, talent acquisition, partnering, comp and ben, HR automation, and employee relations as well. He currently leads the people operations at Delhivery, and he's been at the organization for 5 years, where he's seen several leadership roles as well. Last but not the least, we also have Tejaswini Chalam. I think I should have gone ladies first, but because I'm not necessarily a believer in that always, so I'm going to go with the flow. And Tejaswini Chalam is the lead for campus recruiting at India at Philips. She's an engineer with an industrial engineering and management degree, having close to 15 years of experience in recruitment. And she's always worked on focusing in gathering the right talent for professionals in the freshers categories through universities and industries. Her current responsibilities include internship and campus recruitment, engagement in initiatives, diversity focused programs, tech talks, hackathons, and much more. So we're very, very happy to have you here, Tejaswini, as well. And thank you so much for joining us. It is a pleasure to connect with all three of you. And as I was joking earlier, I think we've got more than 4 decades of experience on the panel from some wonderful HR leaders, and we're very, very grateful for that. To start things off, I'm going to sort of quickly dive into it, and I'm going to start with Tejaswini first, because I'm going to go ladies first this time. So Tejaswini, what I'd like to know from you, in a quick rapid fire answer, is 2 shares each. Now, 1 share, 1 professional positive, and 1 share, 1 personal positive via the COVID-19 experience. Over to you, Tejaswini.
Thank you. And I know where the ladies first is coming from. Okay. So I think from a professional point of view, all of us, I have become more tech savvy, and virtual connecting, the reach is been much better for me. It's quite tedious, but I think the connect has been great. From a personal point of view, I think the word work-life balance was more used from an official point of view, was more for work purpose. But I have learned the art of doing work-life balance, staying at home, managing office and household work. So I think that's been a learning for me. So yeah, that's something I would say, take it as positive.
I think both of those aspects, I think all, so we've already crossed about 170 attendees. So I'm sure they're all very, very all relatable for them as well. Thank you for sharing, and thank you for being so honest. I'm going to come to you next, Chris. Chris, what is 1 professional positive and 1 personal for you?
Sure. So if you look at it, I think professionally, collaboration is something that everybody is experiencing. And of course, we'll cover it a little later. But if you look at the interview panelists that we have, we used to be locationally rigid of saying that panelists have to be from a location, so you reduce your costs. You look at less travel and from a logistics perspective. So we are having panelists across the country right now from all of our locations. Even internationally, we have one panel who is participating in the thing. So it brings a lot of diversity, and of course, it's useful for the organization. So that's the professional side of it. On the personal side, I think this time has given me an opportunity to experiment more with mindfulness and look at how that can center you, because it's been maybe 5 months and 1 week since all of us have been in lockdown or just exposed to our spouses and our kids. So maybe that drives us up the wall also a little bit. So you need to have a balance to that, and all the thousands of video calls that we would do. So I've picked up guitaring after college, and it's been a great stress buster. You can kind of focus on just the music, and I do it in the evenings or on weekends, and that's what keeps my balance as far as the personal side is concerned.
Fantastic. I think so. You picked up a hobby as well, and you spoke about collaboration at the workplace. I think both, again, some very relevant insights there as well. Pranay, I'm going to come to you. What's been your one personal and one professional positive?
So on the professional side, and I'll actually take this back in time by a couple of years, is that when the demonetization thing happened, all businesses said, oh man, we are doomed and there's nothing worse that could happen, right? We bounced back from that. Then the GST thing happened and we said, oh, how do you figure that out? It's a nightmare, right? But then came COVID, right? And this is probably the most volatile situation that we have ever experienced, right? Because for at least a week to maybe a month or a couple of months, depending upon what business you are in or what industry you're part of, everything went into an absolute shutdown, right? At least for a week, the first week, so to say, right? So from a well-running machinery, which was operating so very nicely and efficiently, for that machinery to go to an absolute shutdown all of a sudden, right? And you don't even know what to look forward to, right? I mean, that kind of volatility, I don't think any of us have experienced ever. I mean, those are stories that you can tell to your grandkids that, okay, I've seen demonetization also, GST also, and now COVID also. And the grandkids will probably recommend you for a Nobel Prize or something, saying, oh man, you're great people, right? So that has been an awesome experience. Obviously, I mean, that also makes you realize is what kind of a massive opportunity existed out there for us to use tech, right, and build solutions to overcome the volatility, right, and get the businesses, the people back on their feet, right. So those are a couple of quick, very, very professional experiences, which I don't think a lot of would have got so far. I sincerely hope, I mean, this is the end of this for one lifetime. I think we are done with the adventure now. On the personal side, yeah, I mean, I did realize that I did get to spend a lot of time with my family, my wife, kid, my mom. I did realize beyond a point that, yes, they're indeed very nice people. I should have spent more time with them earlier also. And the second thing that I realized is that howsoever hard you try, the walls don't change color by themselves. Yeah, so you have to learn to live with it.
Fantastic, fantastic. I think with that, I don't know if it's the nature of your shares, but I think the numbers already crossed 200. So the attendees keep rolling in, and now we're all set to sort of deep dive into the topic. And at this point, I want to bring in the audience, and we want to do our first poll. Very interested to see how this poll works out. And all 212 of you, and I think the poll is about to come on your screen now. This question actually came from Chris, one of the panelists as well, who was interested in this answer and trying to figure out what you guys thought of it. Which of these statements hold true for your organization? Campus hiring is paused, campus headcount numbers are not finalized, there is an ambiguity, or campus hiring is being done using a virtual mode. Pretty simple. Figure out which box you lie in and click the answer, and another 5-10 seconds, we look at the results.
So we can also participate, no?
Absolutely.
No, you know the answer already, right? You were the one who set this up.
And as I can see, I think Avinash Raman has already asked a question. Avinash, I'll try my best to take that question, during the webinar as well. Don't worry, I can see the questions as well. Yes. All right, so I think let's take a look at the results of the poll as well. All right, so pretty evenly distributed. I think 31% are saying campus hiring is paused, and the maximum 34% are doing it using the virtual mode, and headcount not finalized. So it is all evenly spread out. So I think we all have our own systems and how we work on this. Our request would be to sort of take whatever best you can from the panelist experience and try to implement it at your organization. But there are, of course, no guarantees because one size does not fit all ever, right? And on that note, I'm going to quickly sort of deep dive into the questions. And, the first question that I want to sort of ask, and I'll ask all three panelists this, and I'm going to request them to be crisp in their response as well. And it's on the current state of campus hiring in India. And the question actually is, what are the major changes that you have implemented in your organization for campus or fresher hiring process during these times? If at all there are changes, what are they? And I'm going to start with Chris first. Chris, over to you first.
Sure, thank you. If you had to ask me this question last year as to how campus hiring is going to be, and you're asking me the same question now after 1 year, I would have never imagined that we would be doing hiring in the virtual way. One is our own mindset saying that no, campus hiring has to be on campus. We have to see the people, we have to smell the sweat, that kind of mindset that our businesses and our teams have. And to now be faced with a situation where if you need to hire, you need to kind of go virtual, has been a lot of change management which comes into place there. And the use of technology, like Pranay said, is something that I'm seeing as a big change which is there. Now, how do you get people ready? Because you've got hundreds of interviewers, you've got so many stakeholders. How do you get them all? I mean, that's, I think, something that all of us have spent the last 1.5, 2 months minimum on calls from morning to night with different stakeholders. So that's one aspect of it. Would Tejaswini or Pranay, you like to kind of add in your points on what you feel?
Sure, Chris. I think, adding on to what Chris was mentioning, I think nobody expected this to come up, right? So it happened in from March when we were planning something else of onboarding all the campus hires or even the intern hiring and things just changed. I think the best way to look at is what we have to do is get more tech savvy. I think that's the way that we have to drive this entire virtual hiring, onboarding, everything is happening virtually. Like Chris mentioned, we were a campus, the mindset that we have is we have to be on ground. I think this is going to be the new normal for campus hiring. Doing it virtually, I think it kind of lets you connect much more people, much more audience that you can get onto the platform. I think that's great. I think in terms of the readiness, quickly we'll have to work on increasing the panels, right? That's the best way that you can look at increasing the number of panels. Conversion ratios will be a problem, will be a concern in terms of, the authenticity of the candidates and all of that. I think you need to create this entire virtual assessment thing, virtual assessment centers rather, which help you in conducting these interviews and, hiring much more easier. There is a lot of planning that is of course required. Have your plan A, B, C, everything in place so that you are prepared with anything at the nth minute. So that would be my take, is what I would say.
Thanks, Chris and Tejaswini. I'll actually want to divide this into two parts. One is what we already did in the past, right, or the last or the current season, and and the next one is what is going to happen, or probably what is it that we're trying to do. So I mean, consciously, unconsciously, through the last few seasons also, a lot of us have actually done virtual interviews at campuses, right? So, for example, if a CXO wanted to interview the final guy, right, that interaction used to happen virtually because the CXO would not travel for one person, right? Just that you have to replicate that at scale now, right? And you have to make that a BAU thing rather than a one-odd kind of a conversation, right? Rather than the CXO doing it, you'll have a whole bunch of people doing it now, right? So as people who are driving these initiatives across campuses and within companies, we are not new to this completely. But yeah, I mean, it used to happen like once in a while, which would kind of now become the norm, right? The other thing which has changed probably, and I think I can speak on behalf of both of my co-panelists here, is that probably because of the business or because of the physical distance, a bunch of us probably delayed the onboardings of the previous year, right? But I think all of us went ahead and honored all the commitments that we made, right? So, and I do read stories once in a while, or I do get approached for advice or, for opportunities. But I think those are the aberration cases. We should not be driven by that. In general, I think the sense has been that the organizations who made offers on campuses, they have honored those offers, right? Maybe in a delayed manner or a more staggered manner than what it would have ideally happened. But yeah, I mean, those have been offered, those have been honored, and I think that will remain how it is. The prospect doesn't look very bleak either. I mean, just the mode will certainly change. I think Tejaswini and Chris have already mentioned this. So I mean, more panels, the rigidity which had, right, which people had the mindset that you have to be on the campus in front of the person. I mean, as if you are going to study the body language and then decide. I mean, some of us do, but then most of the panel members don't, right? So I mean, that has to change, and that has already started changing, right? I mean, we have started training the whole management trainee batches virtually now. I mean, which was never even thought of, right? It has to be a classroom training for X months or X weeks and followed by whatever. Right? So all that has changed, and that is how it is going to change in future also, right? So I think the teams will get, I mean, maybe this is something which has become a blessing in disguise now, because it has helped people like us or people on this call or on this webinar to break that barrier which the panelists or the business side of the organization had so far, right? That you have to be physically present. I mean, the pandemic has showed us that no, that is not the case, that is not required, that is not a mandate, right? You can do it virtually. You have run it virtually once, maybe by force, yeah, but there's nothing to stop you from doing it by choice going forward, right? It kind of brings in a different dimension. I mean, you end up saving so much on your campus cost, basically, right? And maybe that amount either you can actually save that amount, or you can actually invest it back into connecting deeper with the campuses than spending on logistics and travel and stuff like that.
Completely. I think so. While, like all three of you said, I think the adoption of technology, less rigidity in terms of panels, more panels, and all of those things are very, very crucial. I'm sure that's a change that most will have to adopt going forward if they haven't up till now. So I think thank you so much for starting us off on that note. And I'm going to ask the next question to Tejaswini and Pranay, starting with Tejaswini. In your respective sectors, I think there is still a need for some employees to visit the physical, the location of the job. Is that still there? One, and what are the most common candidate concerns that you've seen with regards to anyone, who's coming down for an interview or they're doing any kind of virtual interview? What are common candidate concerns that you've witnessed? And I'm going to pose that question to Tejaswini first.
Okay. So Prashant, I will take that pass to Pranay in terms of how employees coming into the organization and what is the rigid things in there. So I'll pass that on to Pranay.
Yeah. All right, cool. So the answer is yes and a no, right? I mean, the interview process almost in all of the cases, or in a huge majority of cases, has become online now, right? Rather than being one or telephonic conversation here and there, or one or video conversation here and there. I mean, you have to kickstart the entire engine, right? I mean, so how do you start getting people? I mean, and so yes, the interview process has typically been online or virtual for us as well. So no need for people to actually visit any of the locations only for the interview purpose and stuff like that. All that can happen online, and obviously we have, and there are organizations which have been doing this for ages now. So it's not new to the fraternity or to this organization as well. When it comes to actual work location, yes, logistics as an industry is slightly different, right? Because you have physical stuff moving. So you'll need people to be physically present within the facilities or the warehouses or the transportation hubs. But I have not had any case so far where, or maybe barring one or two cases here and there, in general, we have not had people who were reluctant to move physically, right? Or for example, or I did not have any of my campus offers. We made, I don't know, maybe some 200 odd offers last year across tech, logistics, and everything put together. I did not have any single case where somebody came and said, oh, okay, I cannot join because, my movement is restricted. Bombay is, for example, one of the most affected areas, and it still remains, right, in terms of cities. We had a whole bunch of people joining in Bombay, right? And that we take the only thing that you need to do in these kind of cases is that once they become employees, or I mean, if they're even when they're candidates and on the verge of becoming employees and post becoming employees also, you need to give them the confidence that yes, we'll take due care of you. Uh, will take all the precautions which the government wants us to do, and probably beyond that. And despite all of that, in case something goes wrong, don't worry, we are there to take care of you, and we'll stand by your side, right? A couple of people, fresh graduates, did test positive. I mean, not because of the facility they were operating in, but maybe they were roaming around elsewhere, or maybe common friends and stuff like that. But we ensured that they are taking due care of medically, in terms of their pay, in terms of their benefits and everything, right? And those guys are fit and fine, and they're back to work now, right? So that's the kind of confidence that you need to give to people. So yeah, I mean, physical job locations, logistics being peculiar as an industry is required in most of the cases. But yeah, I mean, a lot of corporate roles that we have, right? I mean, we are one of the first companies, in fact, to start shutting down all our offices, corporate offices, so to say. I think we did that on 5th of March. Last 5 months and 1 week, I have not seen the office, right? So I've been pretty much here at my place. Yeah, so I mean, there are roles where you can obviously operate remotely, and then there are roles within warehouses where you'll need to travel and you'll have to be physically present. I mean, the bags won't move themselves, or the trucks
Correct.
won't drive themselves, right? So you'll have to be physically present there.
Completely. I think where there is necessity, I think the processes will have to come into play immediately. And so I'm actually also getting a lot of interesting questions coming in. I'm going to try to take them in a bit as well. Don't worry, I can see your questions, Vasundhara, Arthur, Sudarshini. I'll take your questions very, very soon. I'm going to ask my next question to Chris. And Chris, it's a question that stems from something that Tejaswini was saying a short while ago about trying to be physically present for campus branding, and a lot of those things that we're used to. We've always been used to those processes. Now the physical presence is, it used to be an essential element. How do you ensure or creating that connection, with the targeted candidates during this time? What is the substitute, or how have you seen a challenge in making that transition?
Sure. So it's an interesting question, because still last year we would visit campuses because of logistics and other reasons. You do it on the day of the hiring itself, where you do your pre-placement talk, and whatever you want to tell them about your company, you end up doing it there. Or you have a university relations kind of an approach, where you have a connect through the year, and then you are doing specific initiatives with the students of the colleges that you wish to hire from. For us at Mindtree, what we have seen also is that since we couldn't travel, we had to go the virtual way. So all of the colleges that we are hiring for 2021, we have done webinar connects with them, right? So and it's not a boring presentation, because you have to understand the audience as well. Their attention span is not going to be more than a couple of minutes if you start talking about your company. And if you change the logo, all presentations end up looking the same. So you have to kind of connect, you have to do something. So I'll just share maybe some of the things that we did in our campus connects, and it's done. So we're right now in the hiring phase. So I can share some of those experiences. So first thing is, we got in seniors from these colleges who are working with us to speak about their experience. How was their mindset when they were looking at companies? What did they look for in a company? How did they go about choosing the particular company? How did they prepare? How was the interview? How was the learning experience at Mindtree, of course, right? And then what technologies did they get skilled on? How did they get deployed? What kind of work do they do? How is work-life balance? How the HR policy? So that was the first time that we tried something like that, getting seniors. It built that credibility as well with the college students that we were targeting, because nothing beats having a senior talk to you about how working in a company is. So that's something we did. We also got in live polls where we asked people to give them topics and ask them to use their phones and to give it. And then just like you did it over here, you can see it on screen. So when people are putting in their responses, they can actually see the choices kind of moving. And that was very exciting and interesting. to do as well. And then, of course, from a campus team perspective, we speak about Mindtree, we speak about the Larsen and Toubro thing, as well as the learning and development focus that we have. So these are the things that we did to kind of make sure that the engagement is there with the target audience. They see us as a company where they can grow, where we focus on their learning, as well as they have a visibility as to how the whole hiring process is going to be. And that was a very transparent way. We went ahead and measured the usefulness of the session after each session with people, just to understand, are we on the right track? Are people actually appreciating this? Again, you keep the interview, the connect sessions quite short, about 45 minutes with the Q&A and all of that. So, in that Power Pack kind of period, what we noticed was that people were actually talking about, this was very useful, it's an eye-opener for me. And that's what we were looking at, right? Because we can't go to all of the campuses across the country, and especially at a time like this. So it achieved that objective. And of course, we've had between 75 to 95% of the audience participating, which never seen before when you go physically to campuses.
So you're saying you've actually seen an improvement in the numbers?
Of course, the reach is improved. And the depth is also improved. So inside of the colleges, 75 to 95% of the people that we were targeting who were eligible to sit for Mindtree processes have attended. And that's hard data, right? Because we've got tools in which we are doing these connects and we can track all of that. So it's been number driven, where we can see numbers, and that really helps us get a sense of your potential talent interested. On the other side, you also get qualitative input saying that, hey, this was helpful, or questions related to what running in their mind, which we can answer. So use an approach like that. I don't know if it will work for everybody, but it worked for our industry. It works for our company. I'm sure the others have experiences. Maybe they'd like to also share.
Great. And I think, and I'm going to ask Tejaswini to just share, something if she'd also like to share on this, because such initiatives, I don't think, and I know I said one size doesn't fit all, but I think what he shared was quite doable across scale. So thank you so much for sharing that, Chris. And Tejaswini, would you like to add something quickly?
Sure. I think branding is a topic which is very close to all of us, especially for campus recruiters, because it's the heart of the entire hiring process, right? So, I think it's important that we kind of look at a touch point of candidate at every phase of hiring, right? Right from when we bring in the awareness about what the organization is all about, when they're taking our assessments, when we visit or we do virtual hiring, post the hiring. I think we should lay down, I think what worked well was laying down the touch points, connecting with them at every touch point, branding at these touch points, right? Share information. Like Chris mentioned, I think the depth and the reach has just increased. I totally agree with the fact that when we visit colleges, we might just have very few of them, coming for our presentations. But now I think the anxiety and the criticality is also increased among the students. They also want to be a part of all of these things, right? So I think that way our reach is increased. So I think it's a great, and over communicating happens, which is good. I feel you're getting out your message at the ultimately. So that's a good aspect. So I think branding is definitely taken its spot with all of this COVID and this entire pandemic, and it just grows. So that's what I would want to say.
Fantastic. And I think that tells me that even from your own point of view, the objective of branding has never been sort of more easy to achieve from this point of view as well, because now that everyone's sort of more and I think, let's all be honest, over communicating is always better than under communicating.
Yes.
So I think we've all experienced that, and I think that sort of summarizes a lot of what we've been trying to discuss in the first section. And I think this is the right time to sort of quickly involve the audience again with our next.
Hey, Pranay. Sorry, Prashant.
Yeah.
Can I just add one thing? Sorry.
Yeah, sure.
I missed saying this, but necessity is the mother of all invention, right? So this was the first time at Mindtree we came out with an infographic job description. It's always been text and stuff. So that's something that we did. It really connected. People can see visuals. So maybe that's something that people can try as well, because text is boring. The audience that you're trying to attract is having a low attention span. You're trying to get a few key messages out. So maybe try even that from a branding perspective. I'm sure it will it'll make your JDs look better, and of course, people will understand it within 15 seconds.
I can completely sort of agree and second that, because as organizations, we are also working on trying to improve job descriptions through our products, and job descriptions, whether it's any visually aesthetically job description, will always do better. So I think there are no two ways about that. And thank you so much for sharing that as well, Chris. We'll quickly jump into our next poll now, and it'll just be coming onto your screens very, very shortly. And this is around fresher hiring. When do you think fresher hiring will pick up? If for you it has already started picking up, then click on the first one, which is recovery is already started. If you believe OND is when you anticipate recovery, or if you think this year will be a tough one, and financial year 21 is what you're targeting for your organization, for your peers. It's a quick question, so we're just going to wait for about 3-4 more seconds, and we're going to move on to see the results as well. And I'm seeing some great questions, so I'm actually going to sort of sacrifice 1 or 2 questions that we have already set up, and I'm going to take those instead in a short while. Let's see what the result is. Again, so as we can see, we've got a diverse panel, and we've got a diverse crowd as well, diverse attendees, because they're all dealing with, I think it's almost all even. So yeah, 32, 34, 34. So right. Again, I think so there is no particular benchmark for everyone. And I think everyone is trying to figure out as they go forward. Next question that I'm going to ask is, and I'm going to ask all three to sort of pitch in on this one, because this question is actually something that I think a lot of people would have been interested in. It's an aspect that we're all always interested in, and it's around compensation, right? So, and I'm going to start with Pranay first this time. With work from home becoming the new normal, and a lot of aspects of the work also changing, the requirements of employees and employees' requirements of organizations also changing. Do you see a change in compensation structure for freshers? And have you made any changes, or do you envision any things coming in coming times?
I think I don't really think that will be driven by how you hire people, right? Because the call on that is generally taken by factors outside of how a campus connect is happening or how a campus placement is happening, right? All organizations, be it Mindtree, Philips, Delivery, or maybe the thousands of other organizations which visit campuses every year, we all have a different outlook to compensation. The compensation philosophy is independent of how we approach these campuses, right? So I don't think that is going to change much. I mean, if I went to one of the IITs and hired somebody for X amount of money last year, I cannot visit the same IIT and get a new guy for whatever X plus or X minus, and try and maintain that parity plus minus the inflation and other adjustments that I make, right? So I don't think people need to worry about getting lesser compensation. There are enough opportunities coming up. But I think, even though the graph said that the responses were evenly spread across all the three answers, but I think the recovery is already picking up. I mean, people do see some businesses have started shaping up already. Some businesses are in the process of getting back to normal, right? And anyways, I mean, the campus hiring that you do this year will only start getting added to your cost, so to say, next year, right? So, and it's a long road ahead yet. So I don't think people need to worry about what compensation they'll get. At the fresher level, I anyways tell people, I mean, there's a small anecdote that I want to share, and this came from one of my very early jobs as part of Reliance Retail. And one of the very senior people, one of the CEOs of one of the units, had mentioned this, that once you start your career, there are 2 ways in which you get rewarded, right? One is your learning, and second is your earning. So once you're at the beginning of your career, the learning will be immense, while the earning might seem to be a bit lesser. But as you grow in your career, as you get those years under your belt and you experience more and more, the learning kind of starts to diminish, and the earning grows exponentially, right? And this entire saying this entire anecdote is independent of whether it is a COVID or a non-COVID kind of a placement season, right? So that is the trend which is going to stay. I've followed this like a mantra all these 14, 15 years. I haven't seen anything changing all this while. I don't think this mantra is going to change in the times to come as well. The worst that can happen is that somebody can offer you a 5-10% lesser or a higher compensation, right? But it is all about the skills that you demonstrate and what is it that the price that you command in the market, right? And so long as the demand supply balance remains constant or is maintained, I don't think there's any reason to worry about the compensation part of it.
Chris, would you like to add something?
I mean, Pranay's covered it. The only thing I would say is maybe that depending on how workforces are actually going to decide how their people come into office, or are they going to be in permanent work from home mode, maybe there could be some changes in the compensation elements, but not necessarily the overall structure of the compensation. So if you look at maybe commutation, or if you look at all the Sodexo and some of the other aspects which are given as benefits, maybe that will transform and reshape into something, some other components, right? But I don't see that there's going to be a dip in the compensation perspective. I would expect that it's going to be similar. In fact, if you look at some of the companies are also looking at upping their compensation for 2021. Like Pranay was saying, this cost is going to hit only in the next financial year, and everyone's planning for the next financial year. There is of course going to be attrition. There is of course going to be a need to do cost arbitrage, whether it's in terms of hiring campus talent for that perspective, or kind of skills that you want to get in from that route. So it's not going to kind of come down, is my personal opinion. And compensation, I don't think is going to change. If at all, it's only going to kind of remain same, or probably pick up in some of that. So you look at the trends also, which is happening on the lateral side, right? There is attrition which is happening, voluntary and involuntary attrition. Actually, involuntary maybe a little more at this point. And how do you kind of compensate for that? You have to look at hiring from campus to supplement these numbers, to supplement the revenues that you're getting in. And I think maybe it's a blessing in disguise to have at this point for campus, at least, from a hiring perspective. You're on mute, I think, Prashant.
Yes, absolutely. Sorry, I was on mute, so I also make these mistakes quite often. Sorry. So yes, so as I was saying, I think because we've covered a lot of aspects on the question, I'm actually going to pick up one of the questions and pose it to Tejaswini. Tejaswini, the question comes from Vireet Kotian. The question is how to gauge the confidence, communication, and knowledge on current affairs and things like that, which we used to get through GD rounds. I mean, group discussion used to be a very, very key element of our, now. How do you go about, and I think a lot of people are asking questions about these interviewing skills and onto the new normal. So if you could just shed some light on this before we move on to the next poll.
Sure, Prashant. I think I was also going to the questions. There were questions about how do we do assessments, how do we gauge them, how do we do all of these. I think with this entire situation, having a psychometric or a self-skill analysis assessments is something good and key to have and to be prepared. So this kind of helps us analyze a candidate more from a personal trait, right? And coming on to their skills, I think online assessment platforms, there are a lot of platforms which enable you to assess a candidate from an technical capability, or like you mentioned, the GD rounds as well. It can be done, which is a way that we can do it. I think these are the ways that you can assess, and that will continue. I would not say that it's going to bring out something is going to be totally different because of this pandemic. We will find ways of how to do this still. I think still the online assessments, the interviewing, all these will still continue. But yes, it's going to be virtually. We need to educate both the panels as well as the candidates before we take up the interviews. I think that's how it's more going to be in terms of the interviewing candidate. Well, I hope that answered the question.
Yes, correct. I think that does sort of shed a lot of light on that aspect.
Can I chip in?
Yes, sure.
Okay. So if you look at how, and I'm referring to Pranay's point earlier as well, right? Some of us use body language and we look at all of that. In the virtual environment, you're just looking at a screen and it becomes kind of difficult. So I think it's very important to have all of the panelists, whether they are your technical panelists or your HR panelists, to be calibrated, so that means that you have to spend time with them. Even they may have been part of your hiring process in the previous year. These are things that even they are not used to. If you think the talent is not used to sitting in front of the screen and giving an interview, you will be surprised. Even the interview panels have difficulty kind of doing that. So you have to calibrate them. You have to make sure that they're comfortable, and you have to make sure that they're evaluating for the right kind of things. We spoke earlier about, diversity of panels and getting them across the country or across the world to participate. How do you make sure everybody is on the same page? So you have to kind of do smaller, sessions with people. You get your learning and development team to come in and coach them as to what to look for, do mock interviews, play interviews which you may have recorded. You have to invest in that. You can't just put them in the deep end and ask them to kind of do it. And that's what's going to kind of make sure that you have maybe a consistent experience from a talent perspective, what you call candidate experience, as well as consistency in terms of quality of hiring.
And the another thing this does, Prashant, is actually opens up an opportunity to, tap colleges or reach out to colleges overseas and not only restricted to the country, which used to be the case earlier, right? So, I mean, you'll have to do video interviews any which ways, right? Whether you're interviewing somebody in Kharagpur or, I don't know, Madrid, how does it make a difference? And there's a huge Indian diaspora which is now willing to come back, especially given the situation in the European and the other Western countries, right?
Yeah.
So this actually also gives us an opportunity to connect to those geographies and colleges in those geographies and bring a lot of Indian students back to the country.
I think
Opens up the pool even further.
Like you shared, I think it can be looked at as a blessing in disguise as well, within these terms. So thank you so much for sharing that. And I think we'll quickly take a poll on a topic that we've talked about a lot, but we haven't had enough from the audience on it, which is employer branding. I think the poll will be coming up shortly onto your screens right now. Right. So do you feel deferred hiring has a negative impact on your employer branding? Right. So there's three options. Only when there is no proper communication with candidates, yes, it does create a negative perception, especially when other organizations continue to hire. No candidates understand the market situation. I doubt that a lot of people are clicking the third option, but I think 1 and 2 should sort of cover where you're at as an organization. Let's quickly take a look at the results as well. Very, very shortly, I think they'll be following us. Only when no proper communication. So like our panelists were saying earlier, over communicate. I think we're all on the same page with respect to that. And since we've got about 15 minutes to go, I'm actually going to ask a question and I'm going to pose it to all three. And I'd request some crisp responses, on the same. And this is a very simple question based on where you may have been earlier, or you may not have been, or your contemporaries may have been in the situation. We're just looking for some kind of a blueprint or some kind of a best practice that organizations can adopt. If you were in a situation where you had to pause the recruited campus joiners, and you may have been or you may not have been, that's fine. What would your course of action be? You can share from your own experience, you can share from what you've seen. What would have been your ideal response? And Pranay, I'm going to come to you first on that.
Okay, so all right. Can you just bring that up again? I think I lost you in between intermittently. I'm just trying to recollect some thoughts.
I was just saying, if you were in a situation where you had to pause your existing, joiners and you had to defer that joining and stuff, what was your immediate course of action? Just a few basic steps right at the start of that process.
I think the first option that we had on that poll, right? I mean, over communicating never hurts, right? You keep everybody informed. I mean, it's not only about, so if there are some 10 guys supposed to join my client servicing team, then the client servicing manager, the head, everybody needs to know. The campuses need to know, right? The place comps need to know. The placement coordinators need to know that, okay, this is being deferred. And most importantly, the candidates need to know that, right? I mean, there has to be a very, very constant communication. I mean, it's not like, you send out one communication today, oh, okay, the pandemic has hit and we're not really sure, let us come back to you. Now, that kind of open communication also leaves people jittery, right? So you'll have to keep that channel open on a continuous basis. So every week, 10 days, get back to them. I mean, some of the things that we did was, obviously, a lot of us interact with people when they join. But we actually got the entire batch, all the batches together, different batches together on more than one occasion during this entire pandemic scenario. Got them onto video calls and interacted with them generally. I mean, they are not even joined. And we knew for sure that, they'll not be joining for another month or month and a half or 2 months time in some cases, right? But we kept that communication channel open. They had all sorts of questions, right from, okay, when do you expect us to join, or when do you expect this to materialize. Obviously, for a lot of them, it's their first job after college, so they're super excited about it. Some of them are on loans and they start thinking about that, even though there's a moratorium period and stuff. They start thinking on those lines as to when can we start earning so that we can start paying back, right? There were questions, interesting questions like, what skills do you want us to pick up while we are, just chilling out at home and not joining yet, right? And you can actually use that time and opportunity to guide them into, learning, picking up those skills, like maybe on coding or maybe on R programming and stuff like that. I mean, depending upon what role it is, or maybe study more on supply chain is what I told people. Different facets of supply chain, right? Or share with them some reading material, some content which is relevant to the organization, which is going to be relevant to the role as well, right? So that kind of a constant communication kind of keeps them engaged, even though they know that okay, the meter has not started yet and they're not joining anytime sooner. But yes, the organization is interested. It has kept all the communication line open. A lot of organizations would have done that. We also did that. We created multiple WhatsApp groups. Every group had a moderator from within the organization, and they used to respond to all sorts of queries and questions that people had, right? So, I mean, that kind of an engagement with people, even once they have been selected or offered, right, kind of gives them that confidence that, okay, they're in the right place. They do understand these are bright, intelligent kids. They do understand what is the situation outside. There are restrictions on movement, or the businesses would have taken a nosedive and they'll take some time to recover. Their joinings could be delayed by a couple of months or maybe more, right? But end of the day, these are intelligent kids, right? They'll get
Right.
those small messages that you try and send across to them.
Right. Chris, if I was to sort of just add one aspect onto that and put the same question to you, if the situation, how much transparency is too much transparency in these situations? Like, for example, what if you've ended up over communicating too much and now the candidate sitting might sort of be feeling more jittery, as Pranay sort of said. So how much transparency can actually lead to too much transparency? And I'm saying this also from an employer branding point of view, not just closing that position point of view. And I'm going to ask this question is to the both of you, Tejaswini and Chris.
Sure. So, yeah, of course, over communication is good, but once you commit, once you start talking about joining dates, right? Because that's what everyone's waiting to hear. And then for whatever business reasons, you are not able to do that, that will have a further impact in terms of your brand, in terms of the credibility and trust. Everything takes a beating there, right? Even if it is by 1 day or 1 week, then it's like pandemic sets up within the audience that you have, saying that they've started deferring, and all sorts of mails and calls and escalations. I mean, they'll start writing to your leaders directly, maybe saying that, this is kind of happening. So maybe some of the audience have already experienced things like this if they've tried it. So you have to be very careful with how you communicate with them. I would say maybe if you look at 4 things which I can say that, how to approach in a situation like this. One is, of course, create a communication plan, by which I mean know what messages you have to send at which point in time across the next 3 months or whatever, 6 months, and have all of the templates approved by your legal, by your marketing, everyone, and keep it ready so that you're not trying to figure this out on the go, right? That's when you kind of make some mistakes in terms of what you have to communicate. Second thing I would say is probably put yourself in their own shoes, right? Feel what they're going through. Understand that they have genuine worries about whether the company is going to honor their commitment or not, whether they're going to get a job, when is it that they're going to be onboarded. So we have to be empathetic, and empathy doesn't mean that you communicate exactly what's happening in your business environment out to them, because sometimes that can be scary. So what you have to end up doing is to keep that connect. And Pranay, you said that create WhatsApp groups. That's a great idea, right? So at least they stay connected. If you have Microsoft Teams or you have some of the other collaboration tools, get them onto those platforms. So at least they feel they're already part of the organization. It's just a matter of waiting for when that joining date is going to happen. And then, of course, you can do that communication. They can ask those queries. You can do all of that. It's in a controlled environment. You can do things like that. Try and get your business leaders to come and speak to them. So webinars is becoming a dirty word, because we're seeing so many webinars, so many, even this is a webinar. So webinars looks like a dirty word, but actually it helps in this case where they get to see what is the kind of business you're into, what is the kind of customer engagements that you have, what is the kind of learning programs that you can give them, what is the kind of progression that they can see in the organization. what is the kind of technologies or domains that you operate in. These are things that they're interested in knowing, right? And it's freely, you can share it to them if they're in a closed group environment. So I think these things, if you do from a branding perspective, from a communication perspective and an engagement perspective, it will keep them engaged even though you've paused the onboarding process for them.
Jaswini, I'm going to ask you to just if you had something to add on to that as well.
Yeah, maybe quickly. So Prashant, I would totally echo what Pranay and Chris said. I think also adding to it, one is communicating, of course, and also the accountability, right? It's the accountability of the recruiter, the HR, business, all of us have to, as a team up, we should all team up and then work with, how do we work with, how do we connect with these candidates? I think that's more important. That helps them helping them to know that they're connected. They feel connected to the organization. I think that's one of the important things is what I would say. Responsibility, accountability as well within the organization. And lay out a plan for them. So I think that's more important as to how do you want to, look at candidates who date of joinings have got deferred.
Correct. And I think largely everything that you've shared is something that can be translated across organizations as well. And I've been very, very grateful for that. And since we've got, so we're basically entering the last 5-6 minutes, and as promised, we always want to give some best practices away. And I think to sort of conclude, all three panelists, I'd love it if you could all just share one best practice or a few best practices in under 1 minute. Anything that, you think has had the most impact on any strategies that, you've implemented or you've seen being implemented. So, I mean, this will at least ensure that all our attendees can actually go. I hope the notepads and everything have been running through the webinar for all the attendees. But starting with Tejaswini, because I want to go the way I started. So Tejaswini, one best practice or two best practices in 1 minute. Let's go.
Communicating. So that's the key aspect is what I would say, especially all of us are in different places. I think communicating at the right time is the most important aspect for me. That's one of the best things that I would say.
Chris?
Okay. Prashant, I've shared a link with you.
Yes.
It's called the 10 Commandments to Successful Virtual Hiring. So if you could just help me and share that with our audience.
Absolutely.
I've tried to kind of consolidate some of the thoughts that I've had looking at the virtual hiring that we started from March and what are the kinds of challenges that we've gone through, what are the learnings. I've kind of summarized it into one. So if you could help and put that across, it's there. But I think whatever the planning that you do, you will have things which don't go right? And since we are all depending on technology, you will have people across the country who are logging in, whether it's your interview panelists or whether it is your talent who are logging in. 1 to 3%, 5% of them will have technical issues. So, you will have to kind of have a robust enough process by which you can accommodate that. Otherwise, if you have a cut and dry saying that, if a talent is not able to log in, they don't get the opportunity, that may not be the right way to go about it as well. And you'll have a myriad of issues, I can tell you, when you're doing online hiring, whatever the platform that you have, it's not going to be as it looked in the demo that you had with the company that you signed up to do this interviewing platform. There are going to be issues and you will learn daily and you will get better as you come across those mistakes and experiences. And I think that's something I can leave with our audience. And of course, read the article.
And you can actually, and all the attendees can actually refer the article. It's already shared in the chat. You can check that out on your own time. Pranay, what would you like to also share in conclusion?
Obviously, echoing what Tejaswini said, right? And I'm a firm believer in communicating enough and more with people, right? From the organization point of view, I think, especially for this year and the year to come, be very sure of the roles that you want to hire, be very sure of the colleges that you want to visit, right? Because a lot of people are looking up in hope more than ever, right? And you have to set the expectations right as well. You may or may not hire the same or a higher or a lesser number of people as last year, but the hopes are already very high because irrespective of the pandemic, people will pass out from colleges. They would be looking forward to opportunities to start their careers. So set the expectations very, very right. Communicate again to ensure that whatever they understand or whatever you want to convey has been understood. On the candidate side of it, on the student side of it, the only suggestion that I have is to keep yourself open to roles right? I mean, do not get stuck with, okay, I'm a marketing grad and hence I cannot do anything else in life, right? More than the organization not coming or not picking up people, it is this mindset which will be a bigger hindrance, right? So on the candidate side, please keep yourself open to roles, and trust me, there will be enough and more opportunities coming your way to get you started with your career.
Fantastic. I think so. I think just to sort of bring it all together, I think we've spoken about communication. Over communicating is better than under communicating. We've discussed some great best practices as well. We've like Chris shared, I think using seniors from the college to do your marketing. I think that's some wonderful advocacy that would definitely have a great impact. Try to look at a lot of these things as a blessing in disguise. As Pranay also shared, we had 3 panelists from 3 different industries and roles, and I think all have tried to bring their own take to it. Whatever you can implement, please do. I think we've retained about 90 to 95% of the audience through the webinar, which is of course a great number even by the industry standards. So thank you all for being here with us. On your way out, please do ensure that you do fill out the feedback form, because if you don't give us feedback, I will keep making the same mistakes. I will keep leaving my mic on mute. You can all have a hearty laugh at my expense, but I think at the end of the day, like we've all shared, I think we've tried to take as many questions as we could have. Extremely grateful to all 3 panelists. Extremely grateful to all the attendees who stayed with us through the hour. And of course, I think in conclusion, we hope you got a certain amount of know-how and takeaways from the webinar as well, because that is the eventual objective and goal. With that, we bring to an end close to an hour of wonderful insights and experiences. Thank you to all the panelists, attendees joining and staying with us. Like I said, anyone signing out, please do fill the feedback form. All 90%, 95% of you, please do. And once again, I hope all of you are taking the necessary precautions. You're surrounded by family members, and we're all fighting through this pandemic to the best of your ability. All the panelists.
Prashant, for being such a nice host. I think you've always been one. And Tejaswini and Chris, thank you very, very much. It was really awesome. I actually got a couple of my team members and an extended set of friends to register for this so that they can listen to you and probably learn something. They don't listen to me anyways, right? I talk to them, right? So I brought them here so that they can listen to you and pick up some tips. So thank you very much for that. And it's been actually awesome to be here with all of you. And thanks, Prashant, once again.
Chris, do you have a quick thank you? And if you can also recommend everyone to take a look at the article as well.
Sure. One of the things that I practice, because when I got into campus hiring, I didn't know some of the things which I do know now. So it is my way of paying it forward, where people have helped me along the way, given me that information, and so hence I'm trying to do that now. So
I've also
all of you want to stay in touch with us, we are there on LinkedIn. Find us.
I've also just reshared the article. Please do check it out if you missed out the earlier one. Tejaswini, one closing comment.
I would totally echo what it is, and please do read through Chris's article. It's a great insight for both as an employer and as a student. I think it's great. So closing comment for me is we'll have to just wait and watch. Every day is a new day, a new learning. It was more of a line of dialogue, but it's what all of us are experiencing. So all of you, I would suggest be ready with a plan A, B, C, and that just goes on. Wish you all the very best, and thanks everyone.
Thank you so much, everyone. And with that, we wrap everything up. Thank you so much. Hope you're all very, very good. Thank you to all the panelists, attendees. Have a lovely, lovely evening.
Thanks, Prashant. Chris,
Thank you, fellow panelists and Prashant. Thank you.